you want to stop attracting narcissists, you've got to understand first what they are attracted to so you can identify that and then change the pattern at the root. And that's exactly what we're going to get into right now. One of the greatest practices that you and I can do to change our life, to move in the direction of more of what we want and less of what we don't want, is to notice the patterns that are creating our results. So looking at the pattern that creates the good that we're experiencing, and at the same time noticing what are the patterns that are creating all the things that we would love less of, the things that we don't want. And here's the cool part. When it comes to narcissists, there is an absolute pattern that you can notice that they operate by. So the first step in terms of how do we change the result if we're attracting people who are demonstrating narcissistic traits, narcissistic behavior patterns, is to notice what those patterns are. So let's first take a look. What does it feel like when you are with a narcissist? And this is what confuses most people, because the first experience that you get with a narcissist is not bad. It's actually great. It feels amazing at first if you're not sure what you're looking for. And it's called the idealization phase, or you and I might know this as love bombing. And maybe you've experienced this. In the beginning, the narcissist is charming, they're attentive, they're fun. It feels like the best date that you've ever been on. It feels like this person could be the one. This is what I've been waiting for. Like they're pumping you up. They're filling you up with attention and future promises. They're talking about how amazing this is, how much synchronicity there is, how much alignment there is. And it's a little bit mind-blowing in the beginning because it feels so electric. It feels so exciting. It feels so off the charts. Well, the challenge is that we can confuse that with what it actually feels like when we meet our person. But there are several distinct differences between what it feels like when you actually meet your person, like the one that you want to be with, versus when you're actually being love bombed. So at the end of this video, I'm going to give you those distinct differences, but let's progress on the pattern of what it feels like to be with a narcissist. Because after they fill you up in this love bombing stage, this idealization stage, they idealize you and you start to, in your mind, idealize them. You then get to this devaluation stage. So what happens is they prop you up only so that they can tear you down, because that's how they start to get control. So once you're invested, then they'll start to criticize you. And in subtle ways at first, like little criticisms, little "you're not enough because you're not living up to my, you were this great person. Oh my gosh, I thought you were this, but you're showing up in this other way." And it makes you want to regain that status in their mind. So you start to chase, and that's when they hook you. They will use manipulation tactics like gaslighting, and they'll make you feel like nothing you do is good enough for them anymore. And you'll start to try to be good enough. You'll start to try to measure up to what it is that they want. And that's when we start to devalue ourselves to try to live up to some expectation that they had, regain that same euphoric experience that we had in the beginning. And the devaluation phase can last for a long time until one of two things happen. Either you end it because you're tired of it, or they will end it. They'll abruptly kick you to the curb. We call this the discard phase, right? They abruptly end the relationship. They withdraw their affection. They leave you feeling abandoned. They leave you feeling confused. What's happening is they're moving on. Once they're done with gaining the energy that they want from you, they're going to move on to a new narcissistic supply as quickly as they can. To stop this pattern, it really helps us to look deeper. What is it that drives this narcissistic behavior? What's the underneath motivation? And so it's so helpful when you notice this happening. You notice the criticism, you notice them devaluing you, you notice them starting to engage in whether it's gaslighting, whatever the behavior is where you just don't feel good enough, for you to put these X-ray goggles on and you to see that it actually isn't about you not measuring up, but their behavior is all about them. At its core, narcissism is often considered a disorder of self-esteem. On the outside, they're going to put on this fake confidence, like this grandiosity, right? Like this superiority, that they're all this, they've got it all together, that they know and you don't. It's this entitlement that they have. And this is a psychological defense mechanism. It's literally an energetic mask that they are wearing to hide a deeply fragile ego. Really, they're hiding intense self-criticism. They're hiding intense insecurity. They're hiding this intense shame that they feel. And it's really a profound fear of vulnerability. They do not want to be seen. They do not want to be called out because deep down they feel flawed and that they won't be loved. And so what that individual does is in order to feel enough, they've got to bring other people down. Their whole game is trying to gain power and control through manipulation. And if they can gain power, if they can feel control, then it's this false sense that, oh, well, now I must be powerful. Now I must be enough. It's a never-ending pit. It never gets filled up. That's why they need to do this over and over and over again. If narcissists are profoundly insecure, and you and I know that like attracts like, then who are narcissists most likely to be attracted to? You're probably guessing it right now. Narcissists are attracted to those who are demonstrating insecure, low self-esteem behaviors because that's what narcissists are. They're insecure and they've got low self-esteem. And they know, because firsthand they are this way, that those people are easier to control, easier to manipulate. So just like narcissists are attracted to people with low self-esteem, right? People who don't feel like they're enough, they don't measure up, they're looking for validation outside of themselves. A narcissist goes, ooh, I can validate them and then control them. The other type of person that narcissists are attracted to is people-pleasing tendencies, because that also comes from this lack of self-esteem, this looking for validation outside of ourselves. So individuals who have this deep-seated desire to make others happy and don't want to rock the boat, and we sacrifice our own needs for our partners because we want them to be happy. This people-pleasing pattern is like bees to honey for a narcissist. So if you check in to your own self and you're like, do I have parts of me where I'm dealing with patterns of low self-esteem, parts of me, patterns of people-pleasing behavior, which if you're heart-centered, if you're an empath, is really easy if we've gotten lots of rewards in our life because of people-pleasing, great grades, pleasing our parents, pleasing our bosses or business partners, making them happy, then that pattern can get ingrained that says this pattern leads to more of what you want, because it has in school, it has in your job to a degree, but it will kill your relationships. The thing that really helps us attract the amazing relationship that we want and at the same time repel these narcissists is a practice called setting the bar and living above that bar. I love this word bar because it's an acronym. It's BAR. And the B stands for build your self-esteem. I don't know if you know this, but self-esteem is a muscle. It's not something that we have or don't have. It's something that you can literally grow and strengthen with proven practices. And so knowing that narcissists are drawn to individuals who rely on external validation, building that inner self-confidence is crucial. So how do we do this? What are the places that have the greatest bang for their buck in terms of personal development in growing our self-esteem? Well, one is healing your past trauma. So if you've got past trauma from your parents, past trauma from siblings, past trauma from previous relationships, those past traumas are like sore spots in our emotional field. And it's really easy to push those buttons and trigger us if we haven't actually done the work. And narcissists are great at finding what those are and then pushing them. So yeah, your mom is probably right. You aren't smart or you're never going to measure up. Like they'll find those buttons to really trigger you and then cause you to react because your reaction is control. They love getting that reaction because they've created that. They feel more powerful. On the other hand, if you've done your healing work, and then they try to say something that's manipulative, you can remain calm. And this drives narcissists bonkers. They hate this. If they do something to try to get a reaction and you're actually coming from this place of peace and calm and this healthy way of being, and you're like, ouch, that actually didn't feel good when you said that. Could you please have a do-over? And in order to be in a relationship, I want to be in a relationship where we treat each other with respect. Like that really beautiful neutral phrase of calling out what's happening and requesting a new way of being is so powerful. The second practice that really helps you grow self-esteem is self-compassion. self-love, where you actually are soft on yourself. You treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend. You and I probably are harder on ourselves than we would ever allow anyone else to be. And so developing a practice, and I've spent many, many years growing this in myself because I was so hard on myself. Like if I made a mistake, I would berate myself. My inner self-talk was just so nasty, like you're so stupid and why did you do this? And when I began to shift that, it is amazing what the brain will create for you if you just change the inner self-talk. Like the other day, I was pulling something out of the pantry and it was this bag full of like coffee creamer, the dried coffee creamer. I dropped it and it just powdery coffee creamer dust all over the pantry. It is that moment where I was in between meetings. So I ran down to do this real quick. And now I've got this giant mess and I'm going to need to be getting the vacuum out. And there was a part of me that wanted to go to, God, how could you? And I paused and I was like, hey, everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. You're human. We'll clean this up. And that self-talk, it was amazing to notice. I kind of felt this like volcano of emotion rise up. But the moment I started to self-talk, saying that it's okay, everyone makes mistakes, I love you, you're all good. Ooh, like this wave of peace flooded my system. And I found a workaround where I could be on the phone for the meeting while I'm cleaning up the pantry. And it was all good. If you would love some support with practices for really amplifying that self-love, self-compassion, I've got a free gift for you that I've created. I call it a self-love activation kit. And it's a meditation with beautiful affirmations, like things you can say to yourself, that internal dialogue. And so it's free for me to you. I'm going to link it in the description down below so you can grab that link and allow it to help you grow that self-compassion. The third priority that really boosts your self-esteem naturally is to prioritize your needs. In other words, when you notice, what is it that I'm needing today? And it might be the need for rest. It might be the need for connection. It might be the need for play, need for adventure. And you actually help yourself get your own needs met. You're communicating to every cell in your being, in your subconscious self-image, that you matter. On the other hand, if you deprioritize your needs, in other words, you say yes when you really mean no. You don't really want to help with this project, but you say yes because you've got the people pleasing going on. Or you really need rest and you grind it out. What you're doing is you're communicating to your subconscious mind that your needs don't matter and your own self-esteem goes down. If your partner says, hey, let's meet at 7 versus 6, and you really don't want to, it doesn't work for you, and you don't say anything and you just go along with it, your subconscious mind says, oh, my needs don't matter as much as their needs. They are more important than I am, and your own self-esteem, in other words, the value you actually hold for yourself goes down. And so what's great about this is just knowing this, you can say, oh, self-compassion, valuing and prioritizing my own needs, that is literally growing the muscle of my own self-esteem. We're talking about setting the bar and living above that bar to avoid narcissists. The B is build your self-esteem. Those are 3 beautiful practices. The A is assert your boundaries. Now, why does this work? Well, we just learned that number 1, it helps us grow our self-esteem. But the second thing that it does is it actually creates this boundary of safety for you so that you're actually able to open up and love bigger because you know you're keeping yourself safe. You're not going to tolerate bad behavior from a narcissist. You're not going to tolerate small criticisms. You're not going to tolerate gaslighting or manipulation. Now, there's 2 ways that you assert your boundaries. One is counterattack, blame, and label. And I see this a lot where people are really quick to say, you're a narcissist. You're being a narcissist. You're XYZ, blah, 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 blah. That's never really effective unless you just want to blow up the relationship and leave. Instead of putting a label on the behavior or a label on them, saying they're a narcissist or you're acting like a narcissist or all of that. Instead, just state the fact of whatever they did and say, I'm not okay with that. What I would love is, and then name the behavior you want the relationship to exhibit. Asserting your boundaries from a calm place versus a reactive place is so much more powerful. And the irony is it actually drives narcissists bonkers even more. They do not like it. So we want to clearly define our limits. What is it that we're willing to accept? and not accept. We're going to be assertive, speaking up for your needs, communicating what those boundaries are, and then having clear consequences, saying, I want to be in a relationship where we treat each other this way. This other way of being, you can do that with anybody else that you want, but not with me. Would you be willing to make that agreement? Or what would work for you? And you create a new agreement from there. So B is build your self-esteem, A is assert your boundaries, and R stands for red flags and spotting them early. You don't have to blow up the relationship when you spot a red flag, because you're like, is that a red flag? I'm not sure. It's definitely not something I like, but is it a pattern? Does it mean he's a narcissist? Well, here's an easy way to find out. And I love this because the way you find out is by speaking up early. Narcissists respond very differently than someone who's a healthy communicator, because narcissists never want to be wrong. So narcissists are going to gaslight you. They're going to manipulate. They're going to deflect. They're going to avoid. They're going to have all of these avoidance tactics or making you wrong instead of actually just having a healthy conversation about this red flag. And so by bringing up the red flag early, it'll help you. You're like, is this a yellow flag or a red flag? Bringing it up lets you know, oh, this is not a red flag. He's actually responding really well about this. Or, no, that was a really bad response. This is a yellow flag. Recently on a coaching call, one of my clients who had manifested her man, and now they're 2 years into this relationship, they got into a fight. And it was really a fight about an argument about misinterpretation around she interpreted something that he said one way. He meant it a different way. Both of them dug their feet in and said, no, you're wrong for misinterpreting me. And it really escalated quickly. And he walked out of the room and left and went home. And the question was, is this a narcissistic behavior? And oh my gosh. So there's a big difference between being a narcissist and just not being at our best. And so ultimately what transpired was after a few days, they both calmed down. He texted her saying, hey, look, I'm really sorry for the way I responded. I would love to get together and talk and us to figure out a way to move forward. I love you and I want to solve this. And so he owned in that conversation when they got back together, he owned his stuff. He owned his part. She owned her part. They created a new agreement moving forward. Narcissists generally do not do that. The only way that the repair works is if you're the one who's wrong and you own it and take responsibility. Now, I promised you earlier that I would show you small, distinct subtleties of how you can tell whether it's a narcissistic pattern or whether it's just you're meeting your person, because they both feel amazing in the beginning. So here are some nuances that you can look for that say, this pattern is really not healthy versus, ooh, this is a great pattern. So in the beginning of the relationship, you really want to pay attention to your standards and boundaries. And the narcissist is going to love bomb you. It's going to feel great, but they're going to ignore those boundaries or try to push past those boundaries or make you feel wrong for having those boundaries. It might be boundaries about how fast you want to sleep together. It might be boundaries around driving, sharing some of the responsibilities. Whereas the healthy relationship is going to respect your boundaries, right? They're going to respect your space, your time, your pacing for the relationship. And that shows someone who has mutual respect and is demonstrating a form of love. The second sign, and is subtle, is the narcissist is going to try to isolate you. In other words, they don't really want to engage with your friends, your family, your coworkers, that kind of thing. They want to get you isolated versus the person who's the one is really interested in your life. They want to get to know your family. They want to get to know your friends. They want to integrate versus isolate you. Third subtle thing that you're looking for is consistency. Like with the narcissist, it's going to be really hot, really amazing, really positive, and then there'll be these flips to like negative, and so it'll be hot, cold, close, pushing you away. Whereas the healthy relationship is going to have more of a steady consistency to it, especially in the beginning of the relationship. And the last one, and this is big, is all about conflict. The narcissist will not accept responsibility for issues. They're going to blame, they're going to deflect, they're going to gaslight, they're going to criticize, get you to own 100% of the responsibility for the conflict. Whereas the healthy relationship, that person is going to own whatever it is that's on their side of the street and talk to you and make new agreements. And the biggest factor of all is going to be your gut feeling. While when you're with a narcissist, it's going to feel amazing. There's going to be this feeling like, something doesn't feel stable. Like it feels super exciting, but feels a bit like a roller coaster, right? Like you're a little bit anxious, but also excited. And so trust that gut feeling. Whereas the healthy relationship is going to feel more grounded. It's going to feel more secure. It's going to feel more stable. And the challenge is, if you're addicted to the roller coaster, you might get bored when you attract a healthy relationship. So give it a chance, because these are often ones that are a slow burn that turn into an amazing flame of romance if you just give it time. So there you have it. You've taken a look at what are the patterns of what it feels like to be with a narcissist, why they act that way, and then what you can do using the BAR method. Build your self-esteem, assert your boundaries, and red flags, know what they look like for you to avoid narcissists and attract a healthy partner. My question for you is, what are the signs that you have seen when someone is showing up with narcissistic behaviors? Go ahead and chat those in the comment section below. And know this, I'm holding for you the greatest love story yet. Even if you're in a relationship, it being deeper and more connected and more loving than you've ever experienced before. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.